Welcome to the Eating is a Lifestyle podcast. Today I have a very special guest. Her name is Dr. Pawan Bareja, and she is a trauma resolution practitioner. So she is a Buddhist meditation teacher and an award-winning author of the book Reignite Your Power: Resolving Trauma Through Mindfulness. And with over 20 years of experience, she integrates neuroscience, so our nervous system and what we know about how that functions, with somatic work, which Pawan, you'll have to tell us more about that. But what I understand at this, that somatic means the body. And so we have neuroscience and we have body work and mindfulness to help people heal trauma by working directly with the nervous system. Her work bridges ancient contemplative practices and modern science in a way that is practical, compassionate, and best of all, accessible. She helps people feel safer in their bodies, which is something I'm really excited to talk to her about today, and what that means. And when we feel safe in our bodies, that's when health and vitality can emerge naturally in everyday life. And I love that because that's what we're about here. Eating is a lifestyle. It's about having our lives just flow naturally and our health flow naturally. And you're going to share with us today so much about stress and trauma and how that can interfere with that flow. So I'm really excited to learn more from you. Pawan believes that cultivating love for ourselves and everything around us is at the heart of all healing. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me here, Toby. I'm so excited. Hello to you and to your listeners. Super excited to be here and be part of this podcast today.
Thank you. Well, so we can get to know you just a little bit on a personal level. Who is Pawan in her daily life? What are some things that you, as a person outside of work, enjoy doing?
So, outside of work, I'm someone I value simplicity, being present, and I like having meaningful connections. So I start my day with a meditation and I connect to my own self. My dog usually sits with me in my meditation practice. So we meditate together. And then I love being in nature. So the next thing we do is get out and go for a walk. And I'm very lucky to be living here in Sedona, which is very close to, I have such great hiking close by. In the winters, the dog doesn't go hiking with me. So I go for a short hike in the morning, and in the evening, I take her for a second hike. Um, and I just love being in nature. As even where I'm sitting outside, I can see trees, and I just absolutely love that. And I also really like to slow down so that I'm more in touch with my body and being able to listen to my own nervous system, respond to my nervous system, so that when I'm going through my daily life activities, I'm more in touch with my own self, so that I'm practicing what I teach. And I
It's not
just
easy in this fast-paced
no,
world
it's
we
not.
live in.
Absolutely, I so agree with you, and I have that same challenges, and that's why I like to do my practice in the daily life because that's what I teach. How can you be more in a space of love, kindness to self and to others, and to be mindful throughout the day? So that's what's important to me. And, I love being with people. I have friends. I love hanging out with them. I really enjoy uh, people watching as well. I like to see what people do, how they move, how they eat, how they interact with each other. When I'm listening to my friends, I'm really listening to how they are interacting with themselves and with other people, with their environment. So I really like I like people. I love people, actually.
You
That's
love
the way to
people.
say
I
it.
love that.
Yeah.
Not everybody says that, right? People are very interesting. People are unique. I'm thinking about, people watching in different places at the airport
Yeah.
or at the county fair in the summertime, or people trying to get onto the chairlift at the ski resort, right? People just the way that people interact, that we're
Yeah.
all very fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's fascinating to see, couples and how they interact. And then you'll see families, and then you'll see friends, a group of friends. And, it's like
Mhm.
just the differences in the interactions, I just love
Mhm.
watching that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, and you talked about simplicity and slowing down.
Yeah.
And I think that is so hard. We do not live in a simple world. Our lives are not simple. They are not slowed down. They are fast-paced, complex, decision fatigue.
Yeah.
Is, a term that we're all maybe not familiar with the term, but we're all familiar with the feeling of, I just don't want to make any more decisions. And so when you're talking about slowing down and being mindful of how your body feels, I'm thinking, gosh, how many people give themselves that much time to do that for themselves, even just to pay attention, let alone, get to the gym, but just pay attention to where your body's at and what it maybe is telling you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
So
true.
simplicity is what we're going for. We're going for how do we slow down? How do we do this? Could you tell us a little bit about how you came to do this work?
Yeah. Um, my path in this healing work that I do it's my lived experience. I come from a family that is where we had daily deep meditation, they had spiritual practices, and still, I've had profound challenges in my life, like loss of my father at a very young age, and I deeply love him till today, and it's very hard for me to have lost him. And I've had illness, and I've had trauma, and it was really a life-altering diagnosis of cancer in 2007. That's
Mm.
really what shifted me, because I realized at that point that just meditation, positive thinking, that's not enough. What's really needed is that, yes, mindfulness is very transformative, but you have to bring in a sense of safety in the body, which for me meant looking at my whole lifestyle, my eating habits, the pace of life I was living, right? The simplicity of my life, uh, exercising, and how much I enjoy doing these things versus actually doing them in a forceful manner. And it was
Mhm.
this realization that, you know, I that I need to bring in a sense of safety in my body, that I brought in my trauma resolution work through the nervous system, and brought in mindfulness. I combined the two, and I dedicated my work to helping others heal in a mindful way that is gentle, it's grounded, and it's sustainable.
That forcing forcing healthful things on yourself.
Yes.
I do think that you know, our society has come to a place where we do recognize that health is important. And I think for the most part, people want to be healthy. Now, there's so much confusion about how to do that. What is healthy? What is actually healthy? Um, but I think that the desire to be healthy is there. And so we have people who are trying really hard to be healthy.
Right.
And I remember talking to a client once, and I just said, well, maybe working out today isn't what you need today, right? And she looked at me like that would be breaking the law, right? Like that would be breaking the law if I didn't go to the gym today because I'm supposed to go to the gym every day. And her body was just telling her, we really want to rest and forcing that. And so we kind of talked about it and we thought, well, what will happen to your body if you take it to the gym and you make it do the regimen that you had set out to do? What will happen to your hormones? What will happen to the fact that you're tired? Do you think it might be a little bit more dangerous? Might you be more prone to injury, right? So we just kind of talked through this, like, is this really the best thing? And so I think to think about putting your body somewhere safe, maybe putting your body at the gym and making it do that on that day isn't the safe place for your body. Is that kind of what you mean about keeping your
Yes.
body safe?
Yeah, it's aligning to exactly like you said, Toby. It's aligning to what it is that I really want, rather than forcing your body to do something, right? We are so driven in our society where we are like, working, like you said, decision fatigue, right? So the body is not as fast as our mind. So we have to go at the speed of our body, right? So even like you said, about checking in with the fatigue, checking in when you're hungry, checking in with your when you're need to sleep, those kind of things. Am I breathing or not? Because the breath is the single most important piece of information the body gives you. And that's what, when you're breathing shallow or you're holding your breath, that's a first signal that the body is not feeling safe,
Mm.
right? If I'm pushing myself through fatigue, I'm not friends with my own body at those times. I'm a I'm like a bad boss who's pushing the employee despite late hours of work, right?
So, can you help us understand maybe some of the other physical symptoms that we might feel? Because I mean, you've been doing this for a long time, but a lot of us just kind of go about our day. Like we get up, yes, we're tired, and yep, we still got to go to work, and yet, we just kind of keep pushing. And when, you talk about the breath, and it's like, well, I'm breathing all day long, so I'm breathing. But if we look at it a little closer, are you breathing real shallow in the chest?
Yeah.
That's a clear indication, right? So are there some other signs that you see that our bodies give us that mean we're not in alignment?
Yeah. So let's stay with the breath. So your lungs go all the way from your shoulders till the lowest of your ribs. That's how long your lungs are, right? So if you're breathing shallow when it's right at your upper chest, then it's your middle chest. And then we don't really breathe into our belly, but the diaphragm moves down and the belly pooches out, right? So that's the deepest of the breath. Sometimes the deeper breath, when you go into deeper breath, which is the sign of relaxation, the breath becomes very, very thin, very, very gentle. You can hardly feel it, right? So you want to see, where am I? Am I in a stress response and am I breathing in my upper chest?
Mhm.
And if you are breathing in your upper chest, it's probably not a good time to go out in this cold winter for a walk, right? Because the air is rarefied. You will not be able to breathe and you will become more stressed out, right? So that's putting your body in a stress response by just going for a healthy thing like a walk, right? So You want to really check in with your body what it is that I need. Once you know your breath, okay, I am breathing shallow and I have to move faster, right? So if I'm sitting in a car and I'm driving, maybe that's when I can start to consciously start breathing so that my belly fills with my breath, right? So that's what you want to do. You want to find small little times. You're doing your dishes. Can I feel the coolness of the water on my hands instead of thinking about what I have to do next? Can I come into the present moment? Because the body then kind of like breaks the stress response. The more you come into the present moment, the less stress. Oops,
What happened?
sorry, something my,
Okay.
yeah, sorry about that.
Okay, well, this is good because I wanted to ask you a question about that. Um, okay, so when we, okay, so I want to dive in a little bit deeper about what you're saying. When we're in the stress response, our breath gets very shallow.
Yes.
And I talk a lot about the vagus nerve
Yeah.
and connecting our gut with our brain. And through the breath, we can stimulate that vagus nerve. And so, actually, we can calm our brains with our breath through slowing and filling our lungs deeper, presses on that vagus nerve and stimulates those calm down hormones. And then we can go outside in the cold and we will fare much better. Is that what you're saying?
That is so true. Because you're so right, Toby. The lungs and breathing is the only way we can consciously signal back to the brain that our body is safe. So the moment you take a few deep breaths, you're signaling to your brain, I'm safe. And the brain starts to calm down. All other vagus nerve neurons, they actually go down. The nerve fibers go towards the body and gather information. They give the information from the brain to the body. But
Mhm.
lungs are the only ones which can give the signal back to the brain. So breathing
Mhm.
is by far the best way. If you can even start your day when you wake up and you just start your day with just a few minutes of deep breathing, that in itself is enough to
Mhm.
reset your nervous system.
What I like to do is I get up with my dog, and he's a husky. So he loves that it's so cold out right now. And so he is ready to go. He doesn't even let me finish that first cup of coffee. And when we're out there, I'll make a real conscious effort to breathe in through both my mouth and my nose
Mhm.
because I'll catch myself maybe just breathing in and out through my mouth, if just
Yeah.
and I'll catch myself. And if I can open up those airways and I can breathe more smoothly, I really wake up nicely. I
Yeah.
do really wake up nicely as I feel very alert and calm. So definitely our breath is so, so powerful in managing our stress response.
Right. You're absolutely right. Yes.
So, there are lots of practitioners out there that are set out to help people deal with stress. And there's a lot of different ways that we can deal with stress, meditation being one. But I have a feeling that what you do is a little bit beyond meditation. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about what separates you from maybe other practitioners?
Yeah. So, what I do is I help people understand and regulate their nervous system. Because when the body is in chronic stress, then it affects digestion, it's sleep, your immunity, inflammation, your mood, even the food choices, right? So I prefer not to take them back into their trauma and relive and recycle in their trauma. Instead of focusing on control and willpower. I teach them mindfulness and body based techniques. And
Okay.
so over time, what happens is that they're more aligned with their body, and the body has innate intelligence, as you've seen that with your clients, right? Once you allow the body to express, this is what I need, this is what I want, then, and we follow that, the body we just automatically move towards healthier behaviors. People sleep better, people eat better with more awareness, and they have more energy, you know, to make
For
the changes that
sure.
they want.
I guess the outcomes, those are all the outcomes that we hope to see for our clients and patients. Because when someone comes to me and they're struggling to eat in a way that serves their body, number one, we're usually looking at, well, what messages have you gotten that have totally confused you?
Right.
That this is bad and this is good and this I should and this I shouldn't. And so we really have to erase a lot of that stuff. And then we do start tuning into, well, what time, let's take intermittent fasting as an example. Intermittent fasting asks people to wait until a certain time on a clock
Mhm.
before they eat for the day. And I have issues with intermittent fasting.
Me too.
um, I completely appreciate and understand the science around fasting and the benefits, even that the body can get from times of fasting. But if we don't look at the individual and say, well, what time did you wake up? What time did you stop eating? What did you eat last night? What do you plan to eat for the first time today? How about liquids? There's just so much more individualness that needs to happen. And I've been asked, well, Toby, when do I have to eat by? I don't like eating breakfast.
Mhm.
And so intermittent fasting is like wonderful and I love it because it gives me permission to skip breakfast and I don't like eating breakfast anyways.
Right.
And so what we do is we kind of strip down the labels. Like let's not call it breakfast. Let's start there. It's not breakfast anymore. It's just the first time you eat in the day, okay? And
Yeah.
then let's strip back the clock because it doesn't really matter because, when it's 9 a.m. On the West Coast, it's noon, so it doesn't really matter what time it is. But I want to know how long does your body want you to wait
Mhm.
before you eat something? And what happens if you wait too long? And what happens if you eat too early?
Mhm.
And what's the Goldilocks spot? And she was so relieved. I could just see it on her face. Like, I don't have to wait until noon, but I also don't have to eat at 7:30 in the morning.
Right. Yes.
I have permission to listen to my body and know my body
Yeah.
and trust it. And I,
Yeah.
and that is so hard. And I think it's harder for people who have experienced trauma in their bodies
That
or
is so
trauma
true.
to their bodies.
Yes. Yes.
So there's a lot of disconnect. You know, a lot of times trauma asks people to disconnect
Yes.
from their bodies. And so what I hear you're saying is, we don't need to go back and relive that and relive what happened. But the consequences of it, those symptoms that you're living with now are what you can help with.
That's correct. Yes. And
Wonderful.
you said it so beautifully, where you are basically, if I frame it in my languaging, what you're saying is that you are basically helping your clients listen and align to the innate intelligence of their body, right?
Mhm.
There is a certain rhythm to our body, and different people's body have different rhythms. So you
Mhm.
are actually asking them, hey, listen to the rhythm, listen to your hunger, listen to, your thirst, and follow that. And your body will guide you towards health
Mhm.
and what nutrition it needs, right? So, what you're doing with your work is what I do with trauma. With trauma, what happens is the body gets stuck, no matter what the event may be, right? We say, with the example we like to give in our world is, two people come back from war, one may have PTSD, one may not, right? So, what happens is with trauma, it shows up in the body. It will show up as chronic stress in the form of either a fight response, which may be a lot of anger, or it may be a flight response, which may be fear or terror, or anxiety for no reason that's showing up constantly. Or it may be freeze response, where they're checked out. They're just not they're disconnected from their body, right? They can't read the signals of their body. Somebody may actually go into dangerous situations because they're disconnected from their body, right? So, what I'm doing is I'm helping them listen to the messages of their body, not just the stress response, but also what is the other joyful, happy, relaxed messages, and basically helping them get that in their mind so that the mind is not stuck in just the traumatic responses, and it can
And so
actually
you do this through talking and through breath work. And are there other modalities that you use?
Yeah, I have a lot of modalities that I use,
Oh.
so I have trainings. I'm like constantly training myself. I have pre and perinatal trauma, birth, then I have developmental training. What are the muscles that come online at different stages? What are the emotional, mental states that come on at different stages as a child grows? Then I have some training in resiliency, and another method called body dynamics, where we look at the different muscles in our body, and you can move the muscles in your body to get to come out of a certain emotional state. Um, then I know somatic experiencing, which is what I do a lot of. Is This is Peter Levine's work, and so he talks about healing trauma in the body, and it's very body based. Somatic experiencing is very beautiful in that way. And then I also use Raja Selvam. He is one of the teachers. He has integrated the Indian system of non-dual meditation system along with the chakras. So in the different chakras of your body are your different emotions, and you can balance those emotions through the different body muscle groups. So there's all of
Oh.
these different aspects. So it's kind of like having all of these tools. um, and then of course there is this Porges Vegas system that I draw on, and I draw on yoga, pranayama. So all these different systems, it's like whatever is needed is what I bring in with my clients.
So do you see people in person or do you work with people online, virtually?
I do both. I have a very small in-person practice now because since the pandemic, 2020, I went completely online, and then I
Mhm.
moved. So now my clients are spread out all over the world. I have somebody in Colombia, and somebody in UK, and I have people on East Coast, West Coast. So all of those people are of course online. And then I have a couple people that I'm seeing here, local, in person.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, that's so interesting. So, is it kind of like coaching? Like when you're working with your clients, what's the experience like for them? Is it like working with a therapist, or is it working with more of like a fitness professional? What does it feel like to work with you?
So that is a really good question because it's hard to describe. But what I can tell you is that, what I'm working with is helping them understand and recognize their stress response. And the stress response, as you know, can show up in so many different ways in the body, in your emotions, in your thought patterns, in your behaviors, right? So we go through, so I'm looking at all of those aspects and helping them understand and recognize that stress response. And then I empower them with some tools that they can use on their own, because they have a choice. I truly believe that, we have a choice. Once we understand our stress response, then we have a choice. Should I go down this path, or should I go down this, the original path, right? Or maybe there is a third path and we haven't thought about that. And, I can help them see that third or the fourth option. So then they have some agency in recognizing, changing that response in their body. They listen to their own body. And there comes a point when they become curious rather than afraid of their own stress response. And that's
Hmm.
when my work is more or less done. Because once they become curious, because stress is going to keep coming in their life, right? Once they become curious, then they have agency in choosing different aspects, you know, different habits, different thought patterns, different emotional patterns,
Hmm.
different body movement to bring themselves out. And I emphasize that they go slow, they pace themselves, because if you're moving too fast, you miss the signals of your own body, right? And I also talk a lot about safety, creating a sense of safety in the body, right? And self compassion. We are so used to, in our current culture, pushing ourselves through, you know, all kinds of situations, whether we are tired, fatigued, we don't want to do this, we still push ourselves, right? So we lose out on the joy in our life. So bringing that joy back in our lives so that you're doing things like you're eating, enjoy the food that you eat, or at least move towards the foods that you really enjoy eating so that every meal is an enjoyable experience, right?
You know,
So, yeah.
I work with a lot of self-proclaimed picky eaters, and they say, Toby, I really wish I liked these vegetables, or I really wish I liked eating beans because I know they're so good for me, but I just don't. I just don't like them. And I tell people it's okay. There's so many foods in the world. You don't have to. You don't have to like them all.
Right.
We want to make sure we're meeting our nutrient needs. So if there's a lot of foods you don't like, then yeah, having a dietitian check out what you're doing and helping you to at least fill nutrient gaps. But there are so many avenues we can take that sometimes people just need a guide, just need someone to walk with them that maybe has been there before, maybe knows the way and says, okay, well, let me walk with you I'll be able to recognize um, the dangers, and I'll get you to go find what it is that your body needs right now. So let's talk about digestion.
Okay.
Um, so IBS is just such a big problem. Irritable bowel syndrome is what they call it when we don't really have a better explanation as to why your guts aren't working the way they should.
Mhm.
If the doctors can't find a disease happening or a structural problem, they just kind of send patients off with IBS. And as a dietitian, the only tools that I'm really given and trained to use is like the low FODMAP diet. So
Mhm.
FODMAPs are fermentable sugars, and we've discovered that removing these highly fermentable sugars eases digestion and people's IBS feels better. If you look at what these fermentable sugars are, a lot of them are also called our prebiotics.
Mhm.
So our prebiotics are the food for the probiotics. So the fermentable fibers are what feed the bacteria in our gut, and it keeps the bacteria happy. And so we're kind of have to play this game of, well, we want to put fermentable fibers into the gut so that we can feed the good bacteria and have a healthy microbiome. But if someone's having IBS, the first thing that we do is we tell them to remove those from their diet.
Right.
But I also understand that IBS has so much to do with the nervous system. And I really wanted to talk with you about this because a lot of times people will jump to this idea that what I'm saying here is it's all in your head. No, I am not saying IBS is in your head. What I'm saying is that the IBS could be caused by a nervous system reaction. And I think that is really from the nutrition standpoint, I can talk about easier to digest foods. But I
Mhm.
think what you do is you get to more of the root of the problem and calming that nervous system and calming the gut down. So what do you see in your practice with things like IBS?
So, one of the things that you spoke about were um, helping people find the foods that they like, right? So, before you spoke about IBS, you spoke about that. I think that is really the key in one sense. So, with the nervous system, what happens is that you have an event happen, let's say. Sometimes it's way back in the past. You may not even remember. Like I said, I do pre and perinatal, maybe in the womb. Of course, you're not going to remember that. Maybe in birth, maybe in the first few years of after birth. You don't remember that. And those events are captured in the nervous system, but not in your mind. And then we are going through our life, we're going through so fast, right? The food that you eat becomes more of like routine and not so much as joy. So it's not joy is what's releasing and relaxing your nervous system. So you have at least three opportunities in a day to relax your nervous system, but we bypass that because we are moving so fast. Then life events happen. And over time, those life events happen and they kind of cumulative effect. And then you may have one small event and you have some major symptom like IBS. Because now the nervous system has had too much. It's the straw on the camel's back. Right? When you think about it in those terms, then you can look back and say, okay, where have I lost the joy in my life? Where have I stopped actually enjoying the foods that I eat? The activities that I do, like maybe like hiking for me, like walking your dog for you and for me, right? Those kind of activities which do require us to slow down. So that's where we want to come in with nervous system activities that we spend some time in breathing. Maybe like few minutes of breathing before you eat so that you turn on your parasympathetic or the rest and digest nervous system, right? Because when we are go, 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 we are in the sympathetic, and that's when digestion shuts down for us. If we are go, go, go a lot, digestion has shut down. So, really slowly, slowly watering the plants, watering the soil within your own body, and creating an environment where the good bacteria can grow, right? So that the digestive juices are flowing when you're eating. And then the good bacteria can grow, you can kind of start to absorb food. All of that requires parasympathetic or the relaxation response nervous system. So when people understand this, then they they stop being so active in their mind in figuring things out. If there is any shame about their body or about what's happening in their life, like this kind of an condition, that shame softens and they become more curious. It's like, oh yeah, okay, how can I eat my food so that there is more saliva in my mouth? Because that's my way of telling that my digestion has turned on, right? So even I'm in the same place where I go, go, go. But when I sit down to eat, do I have saliva in my mouth? Oh, that means digestive juices are flowing in my belly, right?
Mhm.
So that kind of curiosity comes in. And that's what makes healing much more possible.
I love it. The curiosity. Yeah, we need to stay curious and true to ourselves. And I think that a lot of times we do seek answers outside.
Yes.
Maybe going to a doctor to say, tell me what this problem is. And we get frustrated with doctors that don't tell us exactly what the problem is, right? We get, so, you went to school for this, you should know everything. And, um, you know, trusting our own intuition and our own experience, it is kind of scary. And sometimes, especially if you don't feel like people are going to believe you, maybe you have a history of people not believing you, and it can be kind of scary to say, I know what's best for my body. But most of the time, you do. I mean, people really do. Do you
Yeah.
agree?
And I mean, that's what I love about your work is you're empowering them to see that they have innate intelligence and they know, right? You're not jumping in there and saying, here's your diet plan and stick to it, and there's a military Toby who's making sure that they follow that diet plan. None of that. I mean, that's what's so beautiful about the intuitive eating work that you are helping them with, because
Yes,
you are
I love it.
empowering them to come back and check in with their body and see
Mhm.
what works. And of course, like you have this overview, like you shared with me, those 4 food groups, and
Mhm.
just bring those food groups in, you know? So
We were
that's
talking
really
this morning. I
beautiful.
was talking this morning with a client, and I said, Do you think this meal had plenty of fiber?
Mhm.
Plenty of fiber is something I say a lot. Do you think this meal has plenty of fiber? And she goes, Oh, I don't know how much the beans has. And I knew what she meant. She meant, grams of fiber per serving. And we hadn't even talked about how big her serving was or how little her serving was. And she said, I'm not really sure if I had plenty of fiber or not. And I said, okay, well, you were eating beans and quinoa, and both of those foods are high fiber foods.
Mhm.
So we know right off the bat that you're eating foods that are high fiber foods and have a good chance of making you feel full before you've eaten too much. So my question is, were you full?
Mhm.
And she said,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, I was very full. And I
Yeah.
said, well, then, yes, I think you had plenty of fiber. And to guide her to knowing internally what plenty of fiber feels like to her
Mhm.
with foods she eats, it's just so different, right? Talk about empowering. She knows that feeling now inside her body. She doesn't ever have to go find out how many grams of fiber are in anything.
Sure. And that's what you're doing is you're helping your clients listen to their body signals,
Yes.
right? And that
Yes.
it's so basic. It's something we lose when, due to some developmental trauma where we are not given choices. You know, how you have like little children are told, just eat this foods because, of course, parents are short on time and they want to make sure that the child is eating healthy. But some children will actually lose touch with how much they want to eat and what foods they like and what foods work and don't work for their body. So over time, that shows up in the food choices as an adult. And so what you are really doing is helping them ignore what everybody else is guiding them to do. And you're saying, listen to your own body's signals.
The
And that
shoulds and
will
the
tell you,
shouldn'ts, we call them. The
yeah,
shoulds and the shouldn'ts.
yeah,
Don't listen to those shoulds and
don't
shouldn'ts.
listen to
So,
that.
um, I'm gathering that this is something that you really wish people would stop doing, is ignoring their bodies.
I completely agree with you because they ignore their body signals and they really push through exhaustion and stress and discomfort as if that's healthy and that's productive when it's actually not.
I'm
Because
probably guilty. Probably guilty of this. Um, yeah, but you know what? It catches up with you.
yes, it
We
does.
don't ever
Yeah.
actually get away with it.
Yeah.
If I work
Absolutely.
through a weekend, by Wednesday, the next week, I'm done. I'm done. And I'm like, I've hit a wall, I'm burnt out, I got to take a vacation. And had I just taken some time off, right? We push through it. I think we push through it because we think we have to. There's so much pressure. But when I was traveling last year, I went to Uruguay.
Mhm.
And Uruguay is a little teeny tiny country in South America. I think just as a buffer between Brazil and Argentina.
Yeah.
And they have like a completely different lifestyle there, and they're very proud of it. And their lifestyle is, you know what? None of us are here to get rich. We're just here to enjoy our life. And they take this slow paced, if it doesn't get done, then maybe I'll get it tomorrow kind of approach to life. And, it's like going to Hawaii. If you've ever been to Hawaii,
Yes.
it's kind of the
Yes.
same thing as Hawaii time. And it's just this slower pace. And as we get into the cities, right, the pace just really picks up, and that's in our environment. And what I love about what it is that you teach people is that you can find that tranquility and that peacefulness in small moments of time inside of your own house or in your own car. Like you said, you can do this in your car, even though the world that we do live in, we can't all fit into Uruguay, but the world that we live in is so fast paced.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
taking that time to slow down just for a couple minutes, bring your breath all the way down into your lungs.
Yeah.
Don't run around with it up here and work through lunch and work through the weekend like I do, right? It's gonna catch up, and it's gonna show up in our bodies in some physical manifestation, if I can say that word right. Um, so important to just get it get it at the root, get it before it turns into something else.
So I just want to say that, what you spoke about, that small interventions throughout the day actually are much more beneficial than a large intervention. And catching stress ahead of time is much more beneficial because you may actually prevent some health issue, by catching that. So I just want to like recap that.
Juan, are there ways, what are the ways that people could work with you or connect with you?
So, yeah,
Yeah.
so where people can find me is I have a book out that got published on December 1st of last year. It's called Reignite Your Power, Resolving Trauma Through Mindfulness. And so you can get that on Amazon and other places. And you can also find me on my website. It's my first name and last name, Pawan Bareja. And I also teach at Spirit Rock Meditation Center. I've got two teachings coming up. One is a 6-week class series called Nurturing Resilience and the Open Heart, Somatic Practices for Everyday Stress. And this is just an hour and a half online on Thursday evenings from February 19th till the 26th. And then we'll flow into a workshop with Peter Levine, who does a lot of trauma work. He's very famous in that field. And it's a weekend workshop on March 28th, 29th, again online, so you can join from anywhere. And this one is titled Resilience, Working with Trauma, Cultivating Aliveness.
Excellent. Oh, I will definitely link all of that in the show notes, and we'll get this out so people have time to attend those workshops. Again, this isn't for other people, right? This isn't for people who grew up meditating only, right? It's for
Correct.
everybody. It's
Yeah.
probably more important that people like me who didn't grow up meditating learn some of these skills and be able to use them throughout our days,
Yes.
right? So we can
Yes.
keep doing what we love and keep feeling good and not let all of that overtake our bodies. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this insight around why it's so important to not just ignore our stress, ignore our bodies, but pay attention and take care of ourselves.
Thank you so much for having me, Toby. I've had a really great time having this conversation with you. So thank you so much. I appreciate you so much.